Hi and welcome. I bought this SBC board on eBay some time ago. It looked particularly interesting as it had this ALI Aladdin V chip, which is a late Super Socket 7 part. So even though the listing did not mention what CPU was on, I hoped it would be an interesting one. It was listed as broken, without detailed photos, so anything could be wrong with it. But at least there was an entry for it on the RetroWeb, with links to the manual and BIOS images, so at least I could configure it properly and reflash the BIOS if needed. So I took my chances and bought it. The first thing you notice is this really nice, shiny CPU heatsink. Sadly, there is no fan on it, but there are some screws to attach one. The board has a Dallas RTC module, which could be dead. It is powered by this chip's B69000 VGA chip, which according to its datasheet has an on-chip 2MB memory. It also has a Realtek RTL8139C Ethernet controller, which definitely works on Windows 98, but I'm not sure about DOS. And it even has one of these sockets for a disk on chip module. And of course, since this is an Aladdin V board, you also get IDE, floppy, USB, and also serial and parallel ports. At the bracket there are 4 connectors: PS2, VGA, LAN, and serial. Okay, let's take a look at the CPU. Sadly, this is not a ZIF socket, so to remove the CPU you have to use some sort of tool and be very gentle. I used a small, flathead screwdriver and got it removed, but you can clearly see the dents on the socket. Well, this is definitely a K6 style package, but I can't tell which CPU exactly this is, as I can't remove the heatsink. It seems to be glued to the CPU. I guess we will have to boot the system to identify the CPU. Anyway, after a quick visual inspection, I found a couple of issues. First, the Ethernet chip has a couple of bent pins. I checked the datasheet and these are PCI address pins. So if they touch each other, the PCI bus may not be working correctly. Let's check the multimeter. And yeah, it seems that 2 of the pins are touching. To fix this, I'm going to use my X-Acto blade to separate the pins. Yeah, this looks good enough. Now let's take a look at the second issue of this board. Yeah, this is the CPU cache chip and is quite damaged. These pins are very bent and even the plastic package is chipped. And wow, I just noticed that the whole chip has been forced to one side. I don't think any of the pins has come off, but this definitely looks suspicious. Anyway, let's first try to make sure that the damaged pins don't touch each other. Okay, now for the smoke test. These SBC boards are designed to be plugged into a backplane. The backplane has 2 jobs. First, it provides power to all the cards connected to it, including our SBC board. And second, it physically connects the bus pins, usually by just wiring them together. But I don't have a backplane board, so I'm going to improvise. I have this dead board that is missing its north bridge chip. Well, ideally I was hoping for the south bridge to be missing, because that is the one that's connected to the expansion slots. But anyway, I'm not going to get into the trouble of desoldering it for now. Let me plug in the board to see what happens. Let's power it on. Yeah, nothing caught fire, which is good, but I don't think the board is working either. Okay, the fact that the motherboard south bridge is connected to the ISA slot is definitely not good, because it may be pulling the reset line or messing with the signals in some way or another. So we need some way to disconnect the actual ISA signals, but at the same time keep the power pins connected. The simplest way that I can think of is to use some tape to mask all but the power pins on the board's ISA connector. But since I also want to connect some cards to the SBC, I'm going to use this ISA riser board as an improvised backplane. So I'm going to mask the connector of this riser board instead. Okay, let's mask the pins. Now let's connect it to the board and use the multimeter in continuity mode to check the connections. And yeah, the first few power pins are connected just fine, but the rest of them are not. Oh, I just realized I should not have masked those pins. Let's fix it. And let's check once again. This time the connections look correct. Now let's power it on. Success! We're getting postcodes. Let me plug in the keyboard and the monitor. And yeah, we've got an image. The CPU is listed as a K62 Plus 500 MHz. Nice! But hold on, the keyboard is not working. Isn't this PS2 port a keyboard port? Well, according to the manual, the port supports either a mouse or a keyboard and can be configured with a couple of jumpers at JP13. And yeah, JP13 is unpopulated. So let's fix it, we just need to put 2 jumpers. But these are not the standard 2.54mm pitch headers, these are the smaller 2mm ones, and I don't have any jumper of this size. So we will have to borrow from some other less useful jumper header. This header is for configuring the disk on chip address. I'm not going to use this for now, so I will borrow these jumpers from it. And yeah, now the keyboard is working just fine. And funny enough, the Dallas clock battery is still going strong. One less thing to worry about. Okay, now let's check out some DOS benchmarks. First, let's try out SBC to check if the cache is working correctly. And yeah, it seems that it does. We are seeing 3 drops in throughput, one for the L1, a second one for the L2, and a third one for the motherboard's L3. So as bad as it looks, the cache chip is still working well. These performance numbers are not that great, especially the Doom score looks quite low. It could be that the VGA chip is not particularly fast, or perhaps some BIOS setting? Now let's plug in this all-64 sound card. It gets initialized just fine by Unisound. Now let's try some games. But first, this is a 16-bit ISA card, so I should probably also mask the rest of the ISA pins just in case.
Your sound card works perfectly.
And yeah, audio works just fine.
Let's rock. Damn, those alien bastards are gonna pay for shooting up my ride.
I'm pretty pleased with this board. It turns out it's working well and came with a pretty cool CPU. I guess it would make a really nice tiny Windows 98 PC. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you for watching and goodbye.